But when it comes to fantasy production, which as we know, fantasy football or any fantasy sport just really is so much different from the actual game. We're not talking about whether these players are actually talented. Obviously they are. Obviously they mean a lot to the teams they're on. We're talking about analytics and straight to the numbers. Are these players going to get in the end zone and get me my 6 points and help me beat the crap out of the rest of my competitors in my league? That's all that matters. I can't be left with nothing in my hand and just trying to scrounge around with the third tier running backs. It's just not going to happen.
Welcome to the ChadBurn podcast, brought to you by M. Chad Baldwin.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the ChadBurn podcast. Again, reporting to you from the Great White North. With us, as always, is the wonderful producer behind the scenes, Julian Ramvoise, and I am your host, ChadBurn. So today, in our third episode in our podcast, we're going to be focusing very hard on the NFL a little bit. As I have mentioned before, I have several fantasy drafts going on, and one of the drafts happened recently, but the more important one will be happening next week. I say more important because that is the all-important Keeper League. In such a league, as I'm sure many of you are listening know, some of you may not, it's a league that goes on every year and every time you need to pick players. So, of course, in this year, I had to choose 3 players I'll be keeping on my team from last year, each one costing a round pick. Now, the conundrum that I'm going faced with is that one of the players that I have to decide whether to keep or not, my number one running back on my team last year, is Melvin Gordon. Yes, Melvin freaking Gordon of the Chargers, who is being predicted to possibly sit out till week 10 of the NFL season. So, the question is, do I risk taking a draft pick to keep Melvin Gordon, who has a serious upside potential? I'd be able to keep him with a second-round pick. Melvin Gordon has the talent to be a first-round pick. However, because of the chance he might not play, I could be wasting a pick that I could then replenish with another player. This is a kind of, I feel, a lot of people going their fantasy seasons in these keeper situations are constantly battling. We have group arguments all the time. Jules, you know, friends like Carlo and Dylan, this is our group, who are constantly trying to ask people who they're keeping, what's going to happen, so they know how to fix their strategy. I'm just screwed, okay? I get to keep 2 wide receivers that are awesome. I get T.Y. Hilton and Adam Thielen. Great bang for the buck there. But then I have no other running backs. I have Tevin Coleman, and I had Carlos Hyde. And Carlos Hyde is now just buried in a depth chart, I believe, at the Jaguars right now. And then we have Tevin Coleman, who's out in San Francisco. Might play a lot, but doesn't play the running back position very well. I say that because he's a bit of a speedster and not someone that makes you miss with lateral movement. Tevin Coleman's a guy who really, if he gets on the outside and gets in the open field, he can bust coverage and really do damage. He also has the dual threat, obviously, of being able to catch the ball. But when it comes to fantasy production, which, as we know, fantasy football or any fantasy sport just really is so much different from the actual game. We're not talking about whether these players are actually talented. Obviously they are. Obviously they mean a lot to the teams they're on. We're talking about analytics and straight to the numbers. Are these players going to get in the end zone and get me my 6 points and help me beat the crap out of the rest of my competitors in my league? That's all that matters. I can't be left with nothing in my hand and just trying to scrounge around with the third tier running backs. It's just not going to happen. There is no running back by committee in fantasy. You need top talent who you know are going to get the ball, who are going to have tons of touches in the game and can also catch it and go into the end zone. So I'm left with deciding how to go about, I should say, this Melvin Gordon situation. I think a lot of people out there have a similar problem. You know, we have Ezekiel just got his contract, but we have running backs now or more often to hold out. So how do you decide whether the upside is more valuable than having them sit out a few weeks? Because there is a chance, obviously, that Melvin Gordon could come back a week 3, week 4, and I only miss him for 3 games and can try and stop the bleeding with some other players. But if he sits out all the way to week 10, oh God, that's 10 games with no production in the RB1 slot. The other issue that I face is that in all the other teams, they're all keeping their top running back. So there is no real round one running back talent pool out there. I have to kind of decide, am I going to try and fit the pieces with some possible low-level players? Can a Damian Williams, who is a round two type of running back, stop that kind of bleeding? Can we find it with a Miles Sanders on the Eagles? Can we back it up with hopefully an Eckler or even a Josh Jackson, the Chargers, who are backing up Gordon and taking a spot? I don't know. I'm hoping and praying there is news before I have to decide so I can make a compelling decision. But as of right now, it's really looking like I'm completely screwed and I'm going to get the Sacco punishment. And to add some insight there to you, those people out there who never watched the league or haven't done a fantasy league, the Sacco is a really unfortunate title given to the person with the worst record at the end of the season. The person who sucks the most. No one wants the Sacco. No one wants to be the Sacco. No one even thinks about being a Sacco. And of course, coming along with that Sacco is a punishment. Julie and I will tell you what our punishment has been decided for this year. Last year, it was a full waxing of below the belt. Oh yes, everywhere. The gooch, the balls, the whole works. This year, we decided to go a little less painful, but maybe just as sickening. A 24-hour McDonald's challenge. Now, what happens is that you are set, you have to go into McDonald's, and your clock is 24 hours. Every Junior McChicken sandwich. Now, I don't eat at McDonald's a lot. I believe that is the name of the food. It is a Junior McChicken sandwich. Every one you eat deducts an hour from your 24 hours. So your goal is to eat as much as you can to limit the time you spend in McDonald's. That means if you're hoping to only spend maybe 6 hours at McDonald's, you need to eat 18 Junior McChicken sandwiches. That's disgusting. And I am definitely going to puke if I have to do that challenge. So I can't be there. I can't be stuck doing that. Obviously, great content, and you could live stream it, but that's just, I just can't, I don't eat McDonald's at all really anymore, okay? My fast food's A&W, maybe like some Lebanese food, like, what's a Boustan, something like that. But in general, I don't go towards the burger or the fried chicken at these places. So I'm really going to have to buckle down, or should I say unbuckle to make room, and have to do it if I get stuck with a Sacco. So Melvin Gordon is really the one thing blocking me from eating 18 Junior McChicken sandwiches. And I only pray that his agent decides and comes out and says, you know what, Gordon, you're just not going to get that $13 million a year. The Chargers are offering you $10 million a year, which obviously we would all take. So just suck it up, go out there, and run the damn ball. That's my hope, is that someone knocks some sense into him. I think $10 million a year is pretty good given his production, especially because the Chargers, I believe, were 4-0 last year without him in the lineup. So it's not like they're losing with Melvin Gordon out of there. So they can withstand it without him. So I think he needs to know where he's at. If he wants to play on a good team with Phillip Rivers and a dominant defense, he's just going to suck it up, take the $10 million like a big boy, and just go out there and play. And help out my team, okay, from whence they came. They need a good running back. Please, Melvin Gordon, I plead with you, come out of this BS. So besides my fantasy woes, I also want to cover, and today we're going to hit a little bit on a show I've been watching, since this is the NFL episode. I want to talk about Hard Knocks, which is the HBO documentary following the Oakland Raiders and their training practice. And I'm also going to hit on a little bit of the playoff picture, who I think has a chance of making it all the way, how I see the seeding in the AFC and the NFC shaking out, who comes out of each division. So that's where we're going to go from it. I'll start with the Oakland Raiders. Jules, even you, who's not a big NFL player, would like this show. It has the HBO production. It's really interesting. They follow them through all the training season, so it's a documentary. They post it a week after they really film it, so they really work hard to get it done. And it has all the top players, and they're mic'd up. And you really get kind of inside look at what it's like to fight in the NFL for a position. And what's more captivating about a show like Hard Knocks is not really your star players, because you kind of understand how they communicate, what they're like out there, because they're always in the media. it's more fascinating to see those guys that are actually fighting for a job. I mean, these are people who have to go out onto a field and have to play their heart out to maybe make third string or even a practice squad and have a career in the NFL. And there's a lot of passion you see in these players. I mean, every single snap, every drill they do, every time the ball's thrown their way, if they're on the offense, or every time the ball comes their way in the defense, they have to give it their all. And it's amazing to see what it takes to really capture the eye of the coaches. But I think there's just I think HBO does a great job of really getting to an emotional level what it's like to be one of these players that's not a star and how they really have to fight hard to get there. So I've really been enjoying it, but the problem with Hard Knocks every year is that it gets you really hyped about the team because obviously you're looking at an in-depth angle at them, and that allows you to really separate yourself in a way from the other teams and the other news. So you're just looking at them and you're hearing all this good stuff that the show obviously promotes, which makes you think that team has a chance to do something the next year. Last year was the Cleveland Browns, and we all got very excited. And yes, they won more games than 0, which is better than 2017 where they didn't win a game. So there is some hope, but I don't think the Oakland Raiders really stand much of a chance right now. Antonio Brown is again going through the helmet grievance. They're going to have a ruling of that next week. So just so you know, Julian, Antonio Brown, top wide receiver in the NFL. He's right now filing a grievance with the NFL, who won't allow him to wear his helmet that he wants to wear, the type of helmet he likes, because it didn't match up to the safety test of the NFL. He says the ones they want him to wear impedes his vision and affects his play. So he's really trying to take them to court. He's tried to settle with them, but so far they've said he can't go forward with that. So he's not really practicing. That's a distraction for the team. And you have the new coach, John Gruden. Last year was the one coach, so he's going to second year. So obviously there's a more chance the players will kind of congeal around the format, the play calling. There's a chance it could be a lot better. But, they haven't had a really successful season since 2016, and that was the year they went 12-4 and really made a push in the playoffs. And that's when we thought this is a team that could be dominant. That was a team that had Michael Crabtree and Amari Cooper out there. Also had a little-known guy named Seth Roberts who broke out that season as a burner on the side. And in that year, both Michael Crabtree and Amari Cooper went for 1,000 yards receiving. So you had a dominant team on both ends. And, you had a Derek Carr who was doing all right. But what I feel is what the misconception we have of the Raiders is that we keep thinking Derek Carr has a chance to be something great. And I just don't see it. He signed a major contract before the season last year. And what we've noticed is that even in the year he was great, and the last 2 years have been terrible for him. He's had, I think he's been under 3,000 yards passing. He's thrown a lot of interceptions. It's just not really meshing well with the receivers. The offense last year just looked in disarray. I mean, they had a couple good games. There was the Thursday night game. I think it was against the Chiefs. Which was really Chiefs or Broncos, and it was a really great game back and forth. They had 2 overtimes, and it was one of those things where you're exciting. You thought that maybe they're going to come out of their funk, but in the end, they just couldn't get together. The defense fell apart. I mean, that's what happens when you trade away a guy like Khalil Mack. But even in the year they were really good, they were still only 8th in pass yards and 6th in rush yards. So it wasn't like they were in the top echelon. Derek Carr was still throwing a lot of picks. I mean, he got the yardage because he was given the opportunity to really air it out in that season. So, if we're going to go back to the same method that Derek Carr is good but not great, is that going to get them over the hump and actually into the playoffs? And I don't think that's going to be the case. I mean, you have something like Antonio Brown would be great, but obviously we've already seen he's a bit of a distraction. The running game is relying on a young running back who, has a chance to come out great, but we haven't seen enough to really know. And the defense needs to they obviously had a lot of replenishment to do because they did trade with Khalil Mack, who's the number 1 defender in the league, maybe behind Aaron Donald. So the linebacker core lost a big piece. And, you got to hope that the cornerbacks come together. They got young talent like Abrams. So you never know. If the defense can come together and Carr can string a few games where he's not turning over the ball a lot, of course, they have a shot, but I think there's a lot of hype right now that's not earned. And so I like to see the Raiders play. It's a storied franchise. They have a lot of great history with Madden behind them. So I think there's a lot of opportunity there. But, it's a wait-and-see game. But, again, Hard Knocks is really fun. I think it's great. John Gruden's entertaining. All he does is yell and curse. So there's nothing better than that. And you have a lot of characters on that team. Abrams with Salmon or Salmon. There's a whole episode literally where he just debated on if you should pronounce salmon Salmon because the L is there, or if it's salmon. And he was saying it's Salmon because there's an L. So that's about the excitement we get there. So I hope to see them do well, but they are not in my playoff bracket. I don't think they're going to get past it. The AFC West is stacked. I mean, if they can get past the Chiefs and Chargers, I mean, God bless them. I mean, that is just a really tough division to get out of. It doesn't leave much hope for the wild card because at least one of those teams is going to win the division, obviously, and then you have a second team that's definitely going to win a wild card spot. So it's going to be really near to impossible. But hopefully they can get 8 to 9 wins. That'd be good for them. But we'll see. Either way, I hope for Gruden. I kind of like the guy, but we'll see how the Raiders do. So pivoting that, since I mentioned I don't see them in my playoff bracket, kind of want to look at what I see going into the season. I think the AFC is going to be a lot of repetition with maybe 2 new teams in the playoffs, I'd say. So currently right now, obviously we go to the AFC. I have Chiefs at the number 1 seed coming out of the AFC West. I think that's a bit of a no-brainer. Everyone has them as a big favorite. The talent's still there. They haven't really lost anyone. Mahomes is just going to get better. At 2, I have the Patriots because I believe Tom Brady hasn't shown any sign of slowing down. Belichick is still there. The defense never has any stars on it, yet every year it still has some of the lowest point totals they give up. So I trust the D. So it comes again where, I mean, how can you bet against the Patriots? Their division is the Bills, Dolphins, and Jets. Unless the Jets somehow have a crazy, insane season with Le'Veon Bell. I mean, Sam Darnold is not a franchise quarterback yet. He can be, but not. So I don't know who competes against them. So I think the Patriots come out. I think they win a bunch of games, and I think they secure that second seed, if not at least a 3. For the 3rd seed, I'm going to go with Texans in the AFC South. I just don't think there's really much there. I mean, the Colts are dealing again with an Andrew Luck injury. So will he play all season? If he can, great. Then they have a chance. The Jags have a defense, but I still don't see them. I mean, Nick Foles, dear and near to my heart. We got the Eagles parent. I love the guy. BDN, he can go far. He won us a Super Bowl. But can he, besides like D.D. Westbrook, I mean, who else out there has the talent to really help them get over that hump? So I don't see the Jaguars as being the next step there. So they're out. And then the Titans. I mean, Mariota, Delaney Walker, Derrick Henry. I mean, who really comes out on top there? So I don't think the Titans have figured out either. So I think the Texans come out easily in the AFC South. So I think they take the 3 seed. I mean, you got DeAndre Hopkins. I think Deshaun Watson's going to kill it. And Lamar Miller's still great at running game. And their defense is, serviceable. Now, the surprise pick for me in the AFC, who I have at the 4th seed coming out of the AFC North, is I do think the Browns will make the playoffs. Now, you say, Chad, you're insane. The Browns have been terrible. They're crap for the last few years. They always fall into the same curse. I hear you. But their offense is going to look nice, okay? OBJ and Landry on the field just is a nightmare for any team, okay? Because Landry is a clear number 1 wide receiver and OBJ is a clear number 1 wide receiver. So you're going to have to double coverage one of them, leaving another one with single coverage. And you can't play zone the whole game because they're just going to they're going to go soft on it, go underneath the corners. You just keep dumping it off. They're going to catch it, take the contact, maybe get a few yards. So there's going to be someone open. Baker Mayfield has the arm. He can get it down the field to them. He has accuracy. That's the thing. And he can move out of the pocket. So even if it collapses, he's going to be able to roll out and hit one of these guys. And if they get good connection, then they're going to be able to read it and pop out. So I think that the Browns can really be a great team. Nick Chubb looks great running back. And then the defense, they've been accumulating talent every year. So I don't see why the defense can't be great. Obviously their D-line is stacked. So I think when it comes down to it, the Browns, I think, come out. I think they win the AFC North. I think the Steelers and the Ravens don't hold on to that anymore. I think it's going to be them. And because I think the Steelers maybe get a wild card seed, but I don't think Ravens going to be good. I'm not high on Lamar Jackson at all. I don't think he's a good quarterback. We saw him last year. He runs first, throws second. I don't think he has the arm for it. He can't sit in the pocket. So I think it's a one-trick pony. I know that a lot of people think he's going to get a lot of rushing touchdowns, but I just don't see him actually bringing together good offense. So the Ravens, I think, are going to struggle like they did last year. Steelers could be good. I think they get at least a wild card seed, but I think it's going to be the 6th seed because with Steelers at 6, I have the Chargers at 5. And I think the Chargers are going to be another great team. They just deal with the AFC West, so I think it's going to be tough for them to really win that division with the Chiefs in it. So I think they get a wild card, and they make it through, and it'll be a good game. That sets up a Chiefs versus Chargers probably playoff because I have the Texans going through. So it'd be Patriots versus Texans. I think Chiefs win, and then you have Chiefs and Patriots in the AFC game. And I think that's a matchup. Everyone thought Chiefs won last year, and Patriots won it. So who knows? But I think it's going to end up being Chiefs for Patriots. And then in the NFC, obviously at 1, I'm sticking with the Rams. I don't think they have any competition out there. I think they're going to win that one. I think Saints come away with 2, and I'm just going fast through these first 2 because they're kind of obvious. We know the talent they have. They haven't lost much. I think Alvin Kamara is going to be great. Michael Thomas is happy with the new contract. Like the Saints will be a powerhouse again. Just got to hope their defense holds up. I do put the Eagles at 3. I think they're going to there's a possibility they can go for 12 wins this season. Everyone's hyped up about Wentz. I know I am. There's a real maturity they see around him. He's changed his diet. He's working out a ton. He looks in great. He's better shape than he's ever been. So that's going to be on top of it. So I think the Eagles really have a chance to win the NFC East, obviously, come out, secure a 3 seed. They could take a 2 seed, I do believe, if the Saints stumble just a little bit. So I'm really rooting for that. I think at 4 seed, obviously, you get the Vikings. I don't think they're going to make the mistakes they made last year. I think they're going to finally figure it out. They have the talent. That should be a good team. There's no reason they shouldn't win the NFC North. I know the Bears have a good defense, but I think that's going to come back down a little bit to reality. So I think the Vikings have a great shot again up there. Finally, 5, I put Cowboys. I hate them, but, who else is really going to come in that wild card seed? I think they got enough talent. Zeke's going to be signed. I think they get at least to the wild card. And then 6, the Bears. I think that's the other really dominant, second-tier team. I think they do enough to really, secure that wild card, not win the division, but secure the wild card. So that leaves, obviously, Rams versus Cowboys and Saints versus Eagles because I think the Eagles beat the Bears and obviously Cowboys beat Vikings. So I think Eagles beat Saints. I think this is the year. I think we come through. We really beat to them. I think Wentz is going to be healthy. I think we're going to have a Jordan Howard, a good running game. Miles Sanders backing him up. I think we can take him out. I don't think that defense is that good. I think they're good, but they're not that good. And I think the Eagles defense will be really dominant this year. So I watch out, Saints Nation. Watch the hell out. Eagles come for you. And then I think Rams Cowboys. I think the Rams easily defeat the Cowboys. There's just no shot at it. There's no way I give credit to Cowboys. That defense is good, but the offense is going to stutter against a Rams D, and Donald will just dominate on Dak. So, he's the best defender against, a young quarterback. So I think that's an easy decision. And then it's Rams versus Eagles. And I think it'll be history repeating itself from the kind of the year when we beat them to get to the Super Bowl. I think it'll be a bit of a shootout, but I think it'll really come down to the Eagles coming on top, maybe like a 48-45 victory. It'd be a really high-scoring game, but that's how I see it. Hopefully, Eagles make it, and we'll see them in the Super Bowl. But that's kind of my prediction for the NFL. The playoff picture unfolding. I will be excited to be wrong, and hopefully there's some teams that haven't done well in the past that come through and really surprise us. NFC obviously looks the same as last year, so let's try and get some surprise wins out there. I'd love to see a little crazy NFC action. That's always fun. So that's where we're at with the teams. We're gonna wrap up, I think, our NFL edition episode podcast, all NFL. So all you NFL fanatics, are you excited? Listen in. I think you'll agree. If not, come at me. I think my playoff picture is a legitimate. If you have any advice on Melvin Gordon, please let me know. Maybe too late by the time you hear this, but I'll try and let you know what I do. And man, I'm terrified. And those that don't like the NFL, well, sorry I had to stick through that. There was nothing different at the end. But in the end, obviously we're out of time. But thank you so much for listening in. You can always hit me up on Instagram at @TeamBaldwin92 or at Twitter at @TeamBaldwin92 with all your questions, complaints, or anything you'd like to talk about NFL-wise. I'm always ready to go. But as always, I really appreciate you listening to the show, and we'll catch you next time. Have a good evening.